Keep you guys watching, glued to the TV sets. We will be there now and forever.
Cool. Also, I heard a rumor. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I just want to know if you can see the gap in Midnight's teeth.
Now, I've made my stance on progressive metal very apparent over these videos, but much like I said in my Tool video, some progressive bands, much like Gene Stealer cults, reside in the underbelly of the holy terror that is my taste. But now it is time to appease the prog heads once again, as if I'm being held at gunpoint. Crimson Glory have the uncanny ability of taking songs with more twists and turns than your first hand job and injecting them with memorable hooks and melodies so that an ape like myself can enjoy them. What feels like an eternity, I've managed to pull myself away from my Warhammer. I mean, come on. Look, it's Morven Vol. And now it's time to get back on into the retrospectives with a nice big dose of prog power with Crimson Glory.
We worked very hard. For 5 years, we rehearsed as a band, not gigging in any clubs at all. So it was practice and practice for a long time.
Never getting out of the practice room.
Right. So we're just now getting out, yeah.
Forming in 1979 under what would have also been a badass name, Pierced Arrow, guitarist Ben Jackson and drummer Dana Burnell would go through several lineup changes in band names before Crimson Glory and the lineup of Jackson, Burnell, bassist Jeff Lords, guitarist John Drenning, and singer John Patrick MacDonald would finally coagulate. John Patrick MacDonald? That doesn't sound right. Oh, I think you all know him under the masterful moniker Midnight.
Well, I acquired the name in California. I used to live in the mountains in California. And there was a girl there that I met was a spiritual guide. She foresaw the future and the past. And she said that my spiritual name should be Midnight. And so for that reason, I kept it. And then also, a week later, she went over a cliff in her car and died. And so I thought in memorial of that, plus the reason that I just named, that I would keep the name.
Rehearsing for years after the band signed and recorded with a label called Par Records, the self-titled debut album would be released when the band signed with Roadrunner Records. And what a great introduction to the band, although people were thinking of a different band the first time they heard them.
When your album first came out, they said, you must listen to this, it's really good, it sounds like Queensryche.
We've played the kind of music that we play, and I've sang like I sing before we even heard of Queensryche. Yeah. So they, they had no influence on us.
Look, I know next to nothing about Queensryche. I'm just not that into them, other than, you know, Operation Mindcrime, but that's an NPC opinion, so I can't really comment on if there are similarities. But you know what I can comment on? How badass this album is. Hell, badass doesn't even describe it. The awesome riffs that combine with the guitar harmonies and the vocal harmonies. The drums that put holes in your drywall, not because you do, because they do. All combined with rock solid bass playing. Midnight is just a vocal powerhouse right from the outset. Tracks like Angels of War, The Popular Queen of the Masquerade, and my personal favorite track, Valhalla, are more than enough to prove this. Whether or not this album sounds like Queensryche, the self-titled debut album stood out amongst the crowd, and so did the band themselves with the use of those iconic masks.
So why do you never take off your masks?
Well, you know, behind the whole band, we have a mysterious image to everyone. We wish to remain anonymous. We don't want to be photographed without the mask on ever. It's the whole image of the band that we want to keep, you know, and we got the mask to have a visual edge over all the other bands in the world, you know. We wanted to make sure we looked different, that we didn't look like anybody else.
They got a lot of attention, and now the pressure was on to deliver on the next album.
We're trying to develop and become like more varied and have a wider audience. Because I think
it's a natural thing.
Yeah, I think it's a natural growth for the band. You know, like the album Transcendence. One of the reasons we titled the album Transcendence is because it's a basic philosophy for the band. We want to transcend the previous records. We want to keep developing and growing.
As if the band needed to worry about disappointing their fans. Transcendence is the debut album on steroids. More guitar and vocal harmonies, more progressive elements, and a more pristine production, despite the fact that the drums are sampled. But when you hear songs like the heavy Red Sharks, the Edgar Allan Poe-inspired Mask of the Red Death, and the epic In Dark Places, how can you feel anything else but awe? But while the band doubled down on the music front, they dialed back on the mystique. After touring for the debut, they realized the blinding stage lights and reflective silver masks could generate a lot of heat. So they toned them down for this album. Not that that's bad, they still look cool, as the music video for Lonely proves, even if the band themselves didn't like the video.
There's a rumor going around that you might re-release Lonely and do another video. Is that just a rumor?
Hopefully.
Hopefully?
Yeah, you know, the one that's on TV now, right now, is a European release, and we feel like we could do a much better job at it.
Sure.
And, you know, we want to hit the American market, you know, the right way.
But a toning down of the band's look was not going to stop their fans from listening. Transcendence is the band's best album and one of the best metal albums of all time, not because the band wears masks, but because they write catchy, awesome songs with a few trips down paths very few tread. Tours with watersheds in metal like the awesome Metallica and Ozzy Osbourne would net this band more fans and bigger dates. It was just going so well. How could it go wrong?
The changes, we changed record labels, we changed band personnel, we changed the image, and we changed our style. And they all kind of went hand in hand. So
we use the comparison. We're like artists painting with different colors now. Before, we couldn't really sing Love Song with a mask on. I mean, it's kind of stupid. So we really were waiting for this album to just be free. And so now we're painting with, multicolors, and it's great. So many different emotions and styles we can mix into the music that we've always wanted to do.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
After the Transcendence tour, Ben and Dana would leave the band they formed to go form a new band called Pariah. With grunge rampaging the music market, certain band members wanted to change the band's sound to fit the times. Ben and Dana said to hell with that, but with Midnight getting more involved in writing and wanting to switch the focus from guitars to drums, we get Strange and Beautiful. Now, while grunge was the sound this band was trying to ape, this album really doesn't sound like a grunge album. Far from it, actually. It kind of sounds like a blues rock album.
Welcome to the stars.
Songs like In the Mood have a tribal type beat. Love and Dreams has some Led Zeppelin elements. Hell, the closest thing you'll get to grunge on this album is the song Promised Land, and I think that song kicks ass. While it doesn't sound like Crimson Glory, I don't find myself thinking it sounds bad. Strange and Beautiful is a pretty underrated album, if you'll allow me to use an overused word, but it wasn't well received at the time. To make matters more fucked, Midnight just up and left the band and the music industry right before the tour of this album. Shacking up with singer David Van Landing, they went on to do a tour that was shorter than Your Prom Night, and then go on to do these kinda, sorta, not really reunions where the band members would shift from singers like Billy Martinez for a band called Crush, and then back with David Van Landing for a band called, Erotic Liquid Culture. Sorry, the band is fine, just the name kinda gives me the heebie-jeebies. But all these side projects really weren't leaving a lot of room for Crimson Glory. In 1999, Crimson Glory was reborn, even getting Midnight back on board. For about 6 seconds before he decided against singing on the album, with the addition of singer Wade Black and returning guitarist Ben Jackson after the master tapes were stolen. Man, this production job was just so fucked. Astronomica was finally released. Going back to the progressive power of the first two records, the music on this album is badass. Guitar harmonies aplenty, killer drums, awesome bass playing. I just can't stand Wade Black's voice. Now look, Midnight is a hard act to follow. David Van Landing did alright. Billy Martinez, I guess. But Wade Black? Yeah, but luckily, the music makes up for it. The title track, Touch the Sun, Lucifer's Hammer, it's all good. It's just a shame the vocals keep them from being great. Astronomica, awesome music, awful vocals. But after a cut-short tour, the band was once again over. But after a few years, the original lineup would reunite for real, with Midnight coming back after years of inactivity.
What happened all those years? Where have you been?
Hiding.
From whom?
Everyone.
What for?
That's why they call it hiding, because you don't tell.
And they promised an assload of material, from a new album to Midnight recording Astronomica songs like he should have from the get-go. It was all looking great. And then their label went under, and after Midnight was arrested for a DUI, the band and all their plans slowly but surely unraveled. To make matters worse, in 2009, Midnight would tragically die from a stomach aneurysm. Rest in peace, big guy. After a couple more years, the band would reunite with new singer Todd LaTorre and even release a demo called Garden of Shadows. But once again, Lady Luck would deal a bad hand. After years of inactivity with the band, Todd would leave him to join, and you're not gonna fucking believe this, Queensryche. Ain't it funny how shit works out? Now, while the band are technically broken up, there's still a possibility that they could get back together again. Hell, they've done it about a buttload of times anyway, so why wouldn't they? And hopefully actually make a new album. Hey, a girl can dream. Well, that does it for another episode of the Retrospective. Holy God, finally. I mean, look, I love making retrospectives, but you know what else I love making? Warhammer. I mean, look at this fucking dune crawler. It's so fucking cool. There's a little Skitarii dude.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
But you know what? I can always pull myself away from building fucking plastic crack and get to talking about music like I love doing. But until next time, I'm Liam Winfield. Keep on rocking.
When a new band comes out, like us, people always feel like they must compare them to someone to explain how they sound and the way that their music is going. And so we thought that if we have to be compared to someone, that's a very good comparison, because we like Queensryche and they're in the progressive vein, such as we are. And also, but I think that I have a more aggressive voice. I can be mean with my voice, and also I can be clean. Whereas Jeff Tate, I think, is more bound to just the clean sound of his voice.
Right.
So I think